Welcome to this multiple-part series on the book by Dr. Saifedean Ammous, which is called The Bitcoin Standard, the decentralized alternative to central banking. This series will be about understanding money, economics, and why Bitcoin could change the world. Before I understand and introduce you to the first concepts and thoughts of this book, I want to explain a little bit about my story and what happened that I would sit here today and record this series. So my name is Nikolai, and I came into touch with Bitcoin 2017, end of 2017, like probably a lot of people did. And the first time I heard about Bitcoin and like digital money or whatever, I thought it's a big joke. I thought it's like some computer nerds, and I really didn't understand anything about it. I just heard it somewhere and thought, all right, let's just dismiss this. And then I was at that time into day trading, and a couple months later I found out that the price of Bitcoin rose and rose and rose, because end of 2017 everybody was talking about it, so you could read in the media about it. So I found out that my broker actually also offered Bitcoin for trading. So I started to trade some Bitcoin, and I realized, wow, this is making a lot of fun. Because it's actually rising and rising. So I traded Bitcoin a little, but still had no idea about what it is. And then I started reading more and more on it, because it was everywhere in the media, as you remember. And slowly I started to hear about this whole thing, blockchain. And I didn't really get it, although I watched a lot of YouTube videos trying to understand it. But what I did get is that people said, hey, Bitcoin is this new way of transferring money, but you don't have to pay for expensive fees. So this was my first concept of Bitcoin. It's like a medium of exchange, but it's very, very low fees, and that way it's a lot cheaper than all the other providers, and it's also faster. So I tried to tell people about that when I heard it, and slowly I found out that this was actually not the case, that there were fees and they were not actually that much cheaper, and also they weren't that fast. So I thought, all right, what is it about Bitcoin? And then I started reading again about blockchain, and I thought about it, and I thought, oh yeah, this is actually not about Bitcoin, this whole crypto thing, but it's about the technology behind Bitcoin. You probably heard that argument before. And I thought about, okay, the technology, blockchain is really revolutionizing everything, so maybe Bitcoin is not going to survive, but this new technology is going to survive. So I posted something on Facebook end of 2017 talking about the idea behind Bitcoin. You probably know that argument. And then I got into some different channels, YouTube and podcasts, and started reading about it. And it got more and more confusing, because all of a sudden you realize there are so many different coins, and Ethereum, and he buys this and he buys that. So what is actually going on here? And then you hear more and more like startups building their business on blockchain and whatever. And slowly I thought, all right, I'm trying to figure this thing out, and I have to focus on something, so let's understand blockchain better. So I bought some books on blockchain, and I thought, all right, this is really the revolution. And then something happened. I stumbled upon some other YouTube channels that actually really pushed for Bitcoin being the only real deal, and the rest of all these altcoins actually being not worthwhile at all. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I never really thought about Bitcoin in that way. I thought, well, it's a competitor, and who knows who's going to win, basically. And I started reading on and listening to the arguments, and then there was one book that came up again and again, and it is this book by Dr. Saifedean Ammous, The Bitcoin Standard. And so I ordered the book, and I started reading, and I especially started reading on Dr. Ammous's Twitter, and I listened to a lot of his podcast talks, to a lot of his videos on YouTube, and also started reading some of his posts and some of his writing. And slowly I realized, actually, I have no idea what Bitcoin is, and everything I've heard so far went in a total different direction. So this really made me think maybe Bitcoin is something totally different than what I thought. And I really enjoyed reading and thinking about this kind of proposals Dr. Ammous introduced, and also a lot of other people, of course, because they were so well thought through. And I haven't heard anybody else being into that topic quite that way. So I started reading more, and I realized, all right, this guy is actually not just some Bitcoin guru, self-acclaimed, but he's actually a professor for economics in Beirut at the Lebanese American University, and he holds a PhD from Columbia University in New York, and he's actually really into economics on a more basic level, and then realized that Bitcoin is very much interesting for his insights that he had about economics in general. So that gave him a lot of credibility in my eyes, and I started reading more, and after a while I thought, man, this is very fascinating and also very thought-provoking. Maybe I go to YouTube and I'm just gonna watch a series about this book because it's so dense and so interesting and so many interesting concepts. I'm just gonna watch a YouTube series on it so I can get the main points more clearly because I learned through watching. And so I went on YouTube, and I realized, well, there's actually nothing on the book like a series. There were many interviews and stuff, but there was not like somebody actually explaining it. There's something on Twitter, summaries, but so there was no video series, and I couldn't really believe it because I thought this is such a brilliant book, and no matter what you think about it, I think we should think about the proposals and the topics because it could really move the discussion along, and it could help a lot of people think about Bitcoin in a different way and also about the whole crypto space. So I thought, well, maybe I'm just gonna do it. And I'm not a YouTuber, I'm just a normal guy, so I had not really had that plan, but I thought, all right, let's just go about it and do it. And I also thought I could give some good content for other people because they might want to not read the whole book, or they might actually just refer it to somebody to say, hey, check this topic on money or this topic on scalability of Bitcoin or whatever. And also I thought I could learn a lot doing this because when you explaining to someone else, you actually have to think a lot harder. So I thought this is a good way for me to internalize these arguments and to actually think about them more thoroughly myself. And I'm not finished thinking about it, so I'm just in the middle of it. I just find it very fascinating. And that's the reason why I wanted to do this. And there is another question that maybe some of you might have. Why do this right now? Like, does this actually make sense? Bitcoin is right now, as of speaking, around $3,500 one Bitcoin. So we're in the middle of a huge bear market. Everything has crashed more than 80%. So it looks like Bitcoin is dying and this whole crypto bubble is over. But I think there's a great opportunity actually right in the middle of such a bear market to dig deeper, because everything is kind of quiet. Like there's no hype, there's not like all these different inputs, there's not so much noise, there's no like white noise as Nassim Taleb wrote a lot about in his books. And so I thought it's a great opportunity to dig deeper, and also the people you find in the space discussing these topics are all people who are not there because of quick money. They are there for other reasons, so they're oftentimes more informed, and that's why I think it's a good idea to start this whole thing right now. And of course, if Saifedean is correct and Bitcoin has this huge opportunity for actually becoming something huge, then it's great to talk about it right now so people won't complain later and saying, well, everybody can talk about how great Bitcoin is when the price is rising above $30,000 a Bitcoin, right? Then it's clear to everyone. So the format I want to choose for this video series is that I'm going to take the chapters basically, and I'm trying to summarize the argument, but of course it's very subjective, so I'm just gonna summarize the biggest insights I had on the different topics that he discusses, and we're gonna move along week by week. I'm trying to publish one video maybe a week, and my hope is that this will really facilitate discussion, and that in the comments people who actually have something to say and who have informed disagreements or agreements can write them and discuss these topics, and we can all learn more. I also experienced in my own journey on learning stuff that if you focus in on one position and you know this one position really, really well, and you know like all the pros and cons of this position, you actually grow a lot faster because you have a reference point where you can compare everything to. So I think even if you don't agree with Saifedean, or if you, I don't know where in your journey you are, or whether you even care about Bitcoin, it's great to actually know one position really well. And I think this is the great thing about Saifedean. He has a very clear position. He's very clear in his writing. He's very like black and white compared to a lot of other things you read, like his opinions about altcoins and all that. So you're gonna get some meat. You know exactly what he's talking about and what he's not talking about, what he's for, what he's against, and he explains everything. And then you have this one position, and I think it'll just help for education and growth, so you can compare it to other positions. The last thing I want to say is that of course, I'm trying to represent the ideas and the concepts of this book as thoroughly and as responsibly as I can, but this is all very subjective, so I'm in no way in touch with Mr. Ammous. I don't know him, I've never met him. I just really like the book, and I really like his way of thinking and his way of arguing. So any mistakes I make, any misunderstandings, I don't have an economics background, so a lot of things might actually be wrong the way I say them. It's all my fault, and not faults of the book. So please read the book and don't just watch the series. But I still hope that you're gonna get something out of this. We all get something out of this. All right, this is enough for the intro, and I wanted to do a long intro so I don't have to explain all that stuff in the next videos. Actually, in the next videos, I just wanna get to the meat of it, and I wanna talk about the first topic of the book, which is actually money. What is money? How does it work? How does something get chosen as money? And I find this very fascinating, so stay tuned, and if you want to, just watch the next video. See you.